Good morning, and thank you everyone for coming out today to our presentation. Yes. So, C, support, succeed. Change your perceptions of Rocky Mount by revitalizing downtown. My name is Devin Ramsey. This is Team Chattanooga, and we're excited to present to you guys our solution for the Rocky Mount Challenge. It can't be a city without hope. These are the words of Joylette Whitaker, a Rocky Mount native who has seen the decline of the downtown area firsthand. She and other community members believe in the potential of the downtown area, but struggle to kind of feel hope in that future when walking through downtown and seeing boarded up shops and empty sidewalks. It is sorry. Use 1 minute to collect. Sorry. Sorry. Nervous. Okay. This leads into our guiding question. How can we make downtown the spot for flourishing businesses, community members, and visiting people alike? How can we take an area with the right infrastructure and infuse it with that spark of innovation and freshness to kind of transform it into a place where people are excited to be again? How can we take this place with the right infrastructure and turn it into a place where people can feel happy and at home? And this starts with our kind of 3-step initial plan of increasing first-glance optics of the downtown area and increasing its harmony with the event center, increasing knowledge and creating new knowledge and resources for people who want to start their own businesses, and creating new That's all.
Thanks. All right, next slide, please. So we're each gonna kind of get into a different segment of this 3-prong approach for you. So I'm gonna first get into the C. So how can we adjust the optics and the perceptions of Rocky Mount before we get there? Because I'm sure as much as we'd all like to say we don't judge a place by how it looks, we all certainly do. And I think the families that are coming to the event center certainly judge how Rocky Mount looks. So with that being said, in speaking to David Joyner, the general manager of the event center, he described to us a conversation he had with one of the moms of a family who came to the event center. And she said, it's a beautiful facility, but the city just wasn't ready for it. And so this is how we're gonna make the city ready for it. Next slide, please. So this is a photo of Falls Road. This is right across from the event center. Now, when you look at this, we're seeing cracked sidewalks, weeds growing through the sidewalks. But then just a block from there, when we go to Main Street downtown, we see nice planters, beautiful streetlights, and cobblestone roads. So we think that there's kind of a lack of aesthetic cohesion between the road outside the event center and the downtown area. And this kind of makes the event center feel distinctly in a separate area from the downtown region. And so by simply extending this cobblestone, planters, and streetlights 1 block further to extend out in front of the event center, we can naturally make the event center feel like it's a part of the downtown area and just draw families down into that region. The U.S. Department of Justice also did a study noting that adding streetlights to regions reduces crime by 20%. Now, regardless of the actual crime that's happening in the area, it simply creates a perception of safety by having more streetlights in that region just across from the event center, which allows us to draw more families downtown. So optics equals attraction.
To that end, aesthetics cannot exist without safety considerations, and not just for some esoteric feeling of safety. We know, as research has shown us, that prioritizing safety in our aesthetic investments actually leads to economic fruit. We saw that in Salt Lake City, where parking was converted to protected bike lanes that led to an almost 10% increase in retail sales over the following few years, which surpassed the city's overall growth in the same area. The same is true of fixing broken streetlights. So it's not just for some feeling of safety, but that really does actually lend itself to really productive economic vitality in the area.
Our next part of this, our next section of our plan, would be to provide support. And we also heard from another community member, they were just talking about the lack of instruction and technical knowledge. So we took this to mean just like an overall, just general lack of knowledge within business, the business world. And so with this, we kind of wanted to expand on that idea and try to correct that problem. And we decided to land on a mentorship program. And this program, if, say, I want to open a restaurant downtown, I would go to city council and say, hey, I would like to have a business mentor. And they could match me with someone else who's either a previous business owner and has now since retired from whatever they were doing, or someone that has had a successful business for years and would like to volunteer their time in that way. And through that, they can connect. Not only does it provide community, but it's intergenerational connection, and you're connecting with other people, other business owners, just to use Rocky Mount's own human capital. There's so much knowledge within the area, but it's just getting it to the people that don't have it yet. You're just expanding to that next step in order to give someone the extra bit of knowledge they need and that extra bit of confidence they need to actually open a business.
Shifting gears a little bit, people need a buy-in. Tax incentives are a proven tool to breathe life into struggling downtowns by offering tax advantages to business owners who choose to renovate, lease, or sell vacant properties. We can shift the cost-benefit equation such that it's financially advantageous to make use of their property and to help revitalize downtown versus letting properties sit idle.
Right, so we know from talking to a lot of our stakeholders these past couple of days and hear from our judges today that any changes to zoning and tax codes can be a very tricky area. So we wanted to bring in a case study of a town called Paducah, Kentucky that was in a very similar situation to Rocky Mount. So Paducah has a historic arts district, and a couple years ago it faced an economic halt and abandonment. And so the city wanted to bring it back and revive it. So what they did was they implemented different tax advantages and tax financing tools to incentivize both business owners and property owners to come back to the space and open up new shops and bring back their old businesses and really revive this area. And it was a very successful task, and what they did was they used the increased property tax revenue from a new revived area to pour that money right back in to this area. So it's kind of a cycle that keeps on going, keeps on improving the area. So Montez, if you want to bring us to our final slide here. To bridge this together, we know we have 3 different plans in C Support Succeed. So the first being the optically aesthetic and revitalize downtown in a safer area. And then bringing in this mentorship program in which we're able to distribute the human capital, because Rocky Mount does have so much knowledge and human capital, and we don't think it's distributed correctly. So we feel if new business owners who are scared to take the risk of opening up a new business downtown, they can learn from people who have already done it and more experienced people. And then finally, they have this incentive to come back to this area. So thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you for your presentation. Bridging all of these things together is quite a job in itself. We've done, I think over the years, we've really put the aesthetic piece together by getting a grant to redo our downtown. Now it's taken till we need a phase 2, because we did Main Street now to take care of our side streets to make it look better and bring all the other areas together. As you looked around and you say, okay, over here it's done, over here it's not, and so it's tying that all together also. The mentorship program, it was one in place at one time, with business owners, helping other business owners open up and doing the mentorship program. Hopefully that can get back on. The tax incentive piece for the properties and all of that has also been together and just kickstarting a lot of things. One thing I can say in being in downtown for over 20-some years and just watching the progress, it's been slow, but it has been moving. It's moving more now than it has ever moved before. Bridging all these things together is the whole communication piece, and watching that come together. It has been, I've like I said, I've sat on the Downtown Revitalization Board for almost 20-some years, and 20 years ago, the only incentive was a facade grant. So watching all the grant programs come together, watching the city put more money to it to make it happen has really been great also. And then watching the new owners come in and having communication. This guy here has come here from New York, and he's been very well in just having conversation And so watching that, and city council has also gotten more involved into downtown. So bridging all these things together, thank you for your input on how to put some of it together and how to make it work even more efficiency than what it already has.
Yeah, I love the presentation. Aesthetics is very important. Like, it's a little different. Like, so just not to go off the radar, like when you're from New York City, you walk down any block and you just go there. But kind of in the South, I would say some people are like used to certain aesthetics, and if it doesn't look a certain way, they don't travel down that block. Where in New York City, we go any block because it's just, that's how we live. But for me, coming here, I believe they have worked on the aesthetics of downtown. They're working on Main Street. They're organizing block by block. I would say Main Street and side blocks, they keep it very clean. Is there certain things they need to improve? Yes. But I think there is a process, and I think there is a plan to move things going. I think mentorship is important for entrepreneurs or business owners who want to have a business. When you are working with travelers and different clients, you need to have your business in place to receive that type of clientele. So mentorship programs of businesses that have done it or who have done already what you're trying to do, I think that's key to running a successful business in the Rocky Mount area. Yeah.
No, thank you. And starting off with the aesthetic piece, that's extremely important because it's first impressions. I mean, when any community you go in, and that's one of the first things that you see, and something as simple as picking up trash or not littering is probably it's one of my pet peeves, quite honestly. In fact, when I arrived here today, there was some trash out there, and I was picking it up because why? I don't understand. That's an education piece. But the other piece on the aesthetics is also one of the struggles we have in Rocky Mount is we have a very old infrastructure that you don't see, but we can't really in fact, we're having to put invest a lot of money because the pipes come under buildings and go downtown, and we're having to fix that before we can get to the aesthetic piece. And then when it came to the mentoring, Reverend Jones was exactly correct. We've had that before here. In fact, it was running out of the, and I forget the name of it, but there was something over at the mill, and it just petered out. So we need to revitalize that because, to your point, you might have a great idea, but if you don't know how to go through and make it work, because there's so much to owning a business, and a small business is extremely difficult. But getting to the tax piece, I love the idea of the tax incentives. Grants are good. One of the issues we have here in Rocky Mount is the money's tight, and I don't know how much we can keep on putting into the grants year after year because of the other demands that we have. So the tax incentives are good, but we need to go to the North Carolina legislature, because if right there at UNC Chapel Hill, you have one of the best public administration schools in the country. In fact, I was an urban studies major at College of Charleston, who all our professors came from Chapel Hill. So, but what I say, in North Carolina, you cannot refund taxes directly to people. It's more like that's more considered a gift. So that's a bigger piece where we need to go to Raleigh and talk with the legislators about that, because if you're going to put in your money to invest in a downtown and invest in a business, I think you should be rebated, quite frankly, some property taxes and other taxes. So I love that idea, and appreciate the thought that y'all put into it. Thank you so much.